days, the first 30 days Ford was president, all the stories in the newspaper, including ones we wrote, were about Nixon. The tapes, what's going to happen? Is he going to go to jail? Is Kissinger going to stay? And so forth. And Ford wanted to kind of pop that. And I don't know, it always made sense to me once you listened to him.
Well, actually, we kind of followed those two-thirds the way you described them on the day that the pardon was announced. I called Woodward and picked him. I said, "You hear the news?" And he said, "No, what's going on?" I said, "Well, the son of a bitch pardoned son of a bitch." And Woodward actually figured that out very quickly without any translator in the middle. And that was our view at the time.
Then it was just, oh, this is a deal. It's too cute. Ford gets the presidency and Nixon gets pardoned.
But I think we need to talk about it in terms of one of the most courageous acts by a president of the United States in our history, I think. Because Ford knew, and we both came to believe, that it was necessary for Ford to have his own presidency. It was necessary for the country to move on. More than that, Ford knew that he could lose the presidency in running for re-election because of the two-thirds, as you put it, perception that this was part of a deal, and that indeed people held this view of it, and he was willing to do this knowing that he was likely, or very likely, to lose the election because of this. And imagine a president of the United States looking at the national interest and doing the one thing that could make him a one-term president.
And that's precisely what happened. He lost to Jimmy Carter.
Right.
47% of the popular vote.
But there was a practical component to this, as there always is to a political decision. The arrangement was the government would get Nixon's tapes back, because Nixon had taken them to California with himself, and in that deal, the tapes returned to the government. And of course, that, as Carl always said, the system worked magnificently. All the elements, Senate, House, Supreme Court.
Political courage notwithstanding, and I got to know President Ford and had occasion to talk to him as well, and he always insisted, I thought I was doing right. I was the right thing to do, and there's no question that in his heart it was, and he believed he was acting in the best, to your point, Carl, in the best interest of the nation. But looking at the precedent that it set, do you believe that it was the right thing to do for history?
I don't think that you do things for history. I think that you do things if you have real principles. You do things as you see them at the moment, and what will this do for the better interests of the people of this country? And that's what Ford did. And I think as we look at two criminal presidencies, Nixon's criminal presidency, Trump's criminal presidency, we see examples of two presidents who had a different notion of the national interest. I think you can see on the tapes, there are times where Nixon indeed thinks about the national interest. That's not to say that he was not a criminal president, and there are evidences on the tapes throughout of other criminal activities. Nixon ordering his aides to firebomb 1 year to the day before the Watergate break-in. Nixon ordering his aides to firebomb a think tank in Washington to get some documents out of a safe that would make Nixon look good and LBJ look bad. But I think this question of people doing things because they're right, and then we have these two criminal presidents, and yet in Trump's case, we have a president of the United States who everything is about Trump. No national interest comes into play. And God knows Bob has written about this more than any reporter through his books, through his reporting. But we have seen no evidence of a concern by a president of the United States for the national interest, only for Trump's own interest.
This is part one of our interview with Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, and I urge our audience to come back for part two. Bob, Carl, thanks so much.